Our first mains article is inspired by this article which appeared on page number 11 of The Hindu. This article this article says India's ethanol conundrum. So this article is basically regarding ethanol blending of petrol, right? Now, before we understand ethanol blending of petrol, let's understand. See, if we talk about the renewable energy targets of various countries, so recently the Conference of Parties 28 it finalized its meeting, right? So in this meeting, it was announced that more than 100 countries have adopted to triple their renewable energy target till the year 2030. So the countries have to triple their renewable energy targets, right? So they have to significantly advance towards increasing the share of renewable energy in their energy mix. This is the first thing. Now, what is second thing? If we talk about India, India has a target to achieve net zero emissions till the year 2070, right? So, keeping in mind these targets, India has to shift away gradually from fossil fuels. So, for that, India is doing many efforts like increased investment in renewable energy sector like solar energy, wind energy, tidal energy, and also using natural gas, right? Which is a transition, which can be used as a transition fuel. Now, one such effort is ethanol blended petroleum, which India has undertaken. Now, let's understand this effort. Now, this topic is important for our GS paper 3 environment. Now, based on this topic, based on India's national policy on biofuels, which has been from since the year 2018, right? So there was a question also in prelims examination, and this theme is important for energy security, basically, right? Now let's understand ethanol blending. Now, as the name implies, ethanol blending, that is blending of ethanol with petroleum, right? So what is ethanol? Ethanol is a kind of alcohol, or it is a biofuel, right? Biofuel that is produced from biomass. So it is an alcohol and this is blended or this is mixed with petrol, right? How is ethanol produced? Primarily, ethanol is produced in India. Primarily, ethanol is produced from sugarcane. Around 80% or more than 80% production of ethanol in India is derived from sugarcane. So as I told you, ethanol is a biofuel. So ethanol can be produced from biomass, right? Apart from sugarcane, this can also be produced from other biomass sources, right? Like corn or maize, like rice. So these are first generation biofuels. We will see regarding this first generation. This is basically, or you can say these are food based biofuels, right? So the primary production, that is the maximum production, more than 95 production of ethanol in India presently is coming from food based biofuels in the country, right? And 80% from sugarcane. This is clear, right? Now let's see the ethanol blending target of the country or initiative. Now India undertook initiative to blend ethanol with petroleum early since the year 2003. But if we see the data of 2014, India achieved just 1.5% of ethanol blending with petroleum, right? Now, fast forward, now if we look forward, in the year 2022, India has achieved the target of more than 10%, around 12% ethanol blending in petroleum. So, in the national policy of biofuels. So, this is a policy on biofuel by the government which was launched in the year 2018. The earlier target was to achieve 20% ethanol blending till the year 2030. It was the earlier target. But since India achieved 12% ethanol blending in the year 2022 itself, the government of India revised this target and now this is the revised target, right? So the revised target is to achieve the goal of 20% ethanol blending till the year 2025. Now, if I say 20% ethanol blending, what does this mean? This means that In a if a fuel ethanol, this is ethanol blended petroleum, it has 20% ethanol and 80% petrol, right? Presently, in the year 2022, government has mandated to use E10 fuel. What is E10 fuel? E10 fuel is 10% ethanol and 90% petrol. Now this is mandated, this has been mandated, and this fuel is available in India since the year 2022. Now government of India has the target to replace E10 fuel by E20 fuel by the year 2025, right? This was all the basics regarding ethanol blending. Now let's see that why are we moving towards ethanol blending fuel, or if I say E10 fuel or E20. Now I'll use these terms, right? E20 fuel. Why are we moving towards these fuels? So because of these primary benefits. What are these primary benefits? The first thing is to reduce import dependence. Now we know that for more than 80% of its petroleum requirement, what does India do? India imports petroleum from other countries, right? So India is dependent on more than 85 or around 85% of its petroleum requirement through import. And now when we import, we lose a major chunk of our forex reserve, right? So if I give you stats, in the year 2020-2021, India imported petroleum. India imported 185 million tons of petroleum and spent $550 billion on it, right? So a major chunk of forex reserve is spent on importing petroleum. So now if we use, and now as we know that the demand of energy would rise in the future because of growing population, right? So India wants to reduce this cost, right, by blending ethanol and petroleum and save enormous amount of forex reserve, right? This is the first thing. What is the second thing? Second thing is that ethanol blended fuel may lower greenhouse gases emission. Now, how is it possible? This is because if we talk about the chemical formula of ethanol, this is just for understanding, it contains oxygen, right? And because of this presence of oxygen in ethanol, this burns better than petrol, right? And if we talk in terms of technical terms, ethanol has more octane rating, or ethanol has high octane rating as compared to petrol. It just mean this, right? And if it burns better than petrol, then this will result in lower hydrocarbon emission, lower emission of greenhouse gases like carbon monoxide, which are vehicular exhaust, right? Carbon dioxide. So the ethanol blending fuel will result in lower levels of exhaust of carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, right? So this is also one of the thing that this will result in lower greenhouse gases emission. This is the second thing. Now what is third thing? Third thing is production of crops. For the production of ethanol, and these crops can be, say, sugarcane, say corn, and or say some other crops, right? If we talk further, we will see that biofuels can be categorized into various category. They are, let me tell you, let's just pause this and let's see what are the types of biofuel, right? Now see, firstly, if we were talking about sugarcane and corn, they are first generation biofuels, and these are also known as food based biofuels, right? So these are made from food crops. These are made from food crops, right? And if we proceed to second generation biofuels, these are those biofuels, these are kind of technically better than first generation in the sense that these are not being used using food based crops, but this can be produced using waste, food waste, say stubble. Stubble is a major problem in some regions like Punjab, Haryana, and some other northern belts also. Agricultural residue basically, right? So basically any kind of agricultural residue can be converted into ethanol, right? and this is a biomass, right? It can be converted into ethanol. So using agricultural waste or plant material, the fuels which are produced are known as second generation biofuel. Now there is a third generation biofuel. What is third generation biofuel? It is a kind of biofuel which is produced from basically algae. The major constituent of third generation biofuel is algae. For it, algae, these are there are some artificial ponds. Artificial ponds are created, and algae is basically algae is planted there. Okay, algae is also a kind of plant. So we can say algae is domesticated, right? Or it is cropped. We can better say. So these are made from algae, and there is a fourth generation of biofuel. This is obtained from genetically modified organism, right? And these can be genetically modified living organism as well as plants, okay? GMO crops and GMO animals. So these are certain kinds of biofuel category, right? So by using, by planting, so by domesticating or by utilizing all these biofuels, biomass sources, farmers can increase their income, right? So these were the benefits of using by benefits of ethanol blended petroleum, right? Now let's move further and see what are the challenges. What are the challenges which may come in our program of ethanol blending of petroleum? The first challenge is declining sugar stock in the country. So recently there was a report from sugar industrial body which said that it is a projected it has projected 9% fall in sugar production in the operational year or in the market year 2023-2024. So the sugar production is estimated to be reduced in this market year or in this financial year, right? And now this is on the account of poor rainfall. Basically in southern India, in southern states in the year 2023, in this monsoon region, there was a poor rainfall, and because of which the production, it hampered the production of sugarcane. So this is the first thing, that sugar stocks are falling. And now we know that sugar is diverted, sugarcane is diverted. Sugarcane is used to produce sugar also, and what is it can be used to produce ethanol also. Now ethanol can either be directly produced from the sugar juice or sugar syrup, or the secondly it can be also produced by molasses. Molasses is a byproduct molasses is a byproduct which is produced in the production process of sugar, right? Now see, if the sugar production is decreasing, then there would be less amount of sugarcane juice which will go towards producing ethanol, right? So this is one issue. And so government has forecasted that maybe in the next financial year government will need to import sugar also, right? So sourcing sugarcane, the first challenge is sourcing sugarcane juice for the production of ethanol, right? So this is the first challenge. Other thing is, if you as we discussed other sources also of biofuel generation. Now one may think that okay, if sugarcane availability is lower, let's switch on to other biofuel crops. Now what is the other major biofuel crop? It is corn or maize, and other crops are, say, rice is one other crop. But see, if we used grain based ethanol, then the country will have to divert its major agricultural land in production of corn, rice and other crops, right? And this may impact the food security of the country, right? So diverting agricultural land may raise the issue of food security. Other thing is that ethanol blended petroleum causes production process causes some environmental concern. What is the first concern? As I already told you, 85% of ethanol produced is produced from sugarcane. But if we talk about sugarcane is a water intensive crop, or it is a water guzzling crop, right? So this will lead to reduction or the lowering of the water table. This is the first environmental challenge. And now see other environmental challenges that if we remember why we are using ethanol blended petroleum, in order to lower greenhouse gases emission, right? In order to lower greenhouse gases emission from vehicular exhaust, right? From the use of fossil fuels. But now if you see, if we use food based ethanol, then it will lead to agricultural emissions. There would be emissions from agricultural sector owing to increased production of sugarcane or other crops, right? In one sense, what we saw that this is just we are rerouting the emissions, right? So it may not be that effective mechanism. So for that we have to move towards other generations of biofuel and should not solely depend on first generation of biofuel, right? In order to counter this problem. Now other challenge is that if we talk, as we already saw, using this fuel, carbon monoxide and CO2 emissions can be reduced, but there is no significant reduction in the emission of nitrogen oxides, right? So this is also a challenge, that there are no significant reduction in its emission by using ethanol blended petroleum. Now let's move on to our next challenge. That the next challenge is related to the storage infrastructure of ethanol. Now we know that though we have seen presently India has 900 crore liters to store around 900 crore liters of ethanol. But in order to meet our target, which is 20% ethanol blending by the year 2025, we have just 2 years and still we have to create an infrastructure, storage capacity. We have to increase this from 900 to 1500 crore liters, right? So this challenge is to build more infrastructure, storage infrastructure, right? Build more distilleries and storage infrastructure. Finally, there is an issue due to non-implementation of Industries Development and Regulation Act 1951, right? Now this act, among other things, was to ensure smooth movement of ethanol from one state to other state. Now see, there are certain states in India which are rich in biofuel, and that's why they are rich in ethanol production, right? And there are certain states in the country which are not that rich in biofuels, right? And that's why they are deficient in ethanol production. Now for example, say Northeast India may be deficient in the production of ethanol. In that case, if we want to ensure the smooth availability of ethanol blended petroleum throughout the country, that there should be no disparity regarding it, for that what we have to do, for that there should be smooth movement of ethanol from one state to other state, right? Now due to non implementation of this act, there are certain restrictions on the interstate movement of ethanol. So this could hamper the smooth rollout of ethanol blended program of the government, right? Now these are some of the challenges. Now what are the way forward? What are some way forward? The first thing is to move towards sustainable biofuels. From crop-based biofuels or first generation biofuels, we need to move towards more sustainable alternatives, right? These could be, as we already saw, these could be by utilizing second generation, which could be by utilizing agricultural waste, just as stubble burning. This would also mean higher income for the farmers and reduced pollution, right? They could move towards algae. The government should move towards GMOs, right? So these are more sustainable alternatives to first degree or primary biofuels, right? The second thing is to increase investment in public infrastructure of transportation. Now see, the transportation to increase, now government needs to increase its investment to create or to facilitate smooth transport, public transport capacity, that is network of roadways, railways or other transport, in order that people do not come out and they do not use their own vehicles that frequently, right? So this is one thing. The third thing is government should invest more on alternative energy sources. Apart from ethanol blended petroleum, government should also invest in creating, say, electric vehicles, right? So for uh, ensuring the rollout of electric vehicles, government should do initiatives like subsidization of batteries, as the major challenge of EVs is high cost of batteries, right? So government should give some kind of subsidies to the manufacturers, right? uh, so this is this could be one thing which government could do. Other thing is that installation of charging infrastructure in the country for a smooth rollout of electric vehicles, right? Other things which government couldn't do it, government can invest in other renewable sources of energy like solar power, wind power, right? And also there should be effective rollout of national hydrogen mission, right? Hydrogen being an alternative to other fossil fuels, okay, and in clean energy, that is national hydrogen mission, which is focusing on green hydrogen. So these are some of the way forward which the government can do in this regard. Now let's move on to our second topic for the day, which is inspired by this news article which appeared on page number 12 of the Hindu. Now this news article is regarding Dharavi revamp in turmoil. So this is regarding one of the largest slums of the world, which is Dharavi, right? So this article may not be, the context of this news article may not be that important for us, but we have picked a major theme based on this news article, which is urbanization problems, the problems of urbanization, right? And so urban housing, because of the problems of urbanization, slums or urban housing, the rise in the number of slums, or say non-access to affordable housing is one of the problem. Now this is an important theme for your GS paper 1 society, right? Now based on this similar theme, in the year 2016 we found a question which was regarding the smart cities program also. Okay, now let's understand, let's proceed further. Now as per the latest census or the census data of 2011, the census data quoted that presently at that time India had 9 million homeless people, around 9 lakh homeless people in the country, right? And the 17% of urban population of the country, which is 65 million people, which translates to 6.5 crore people in the country, they lived in slums, right? So this was the data of government. So this shows that a significant chunk of urban population is living in slums, or there is an issue of urban housing which these people are facing. Now as this is the data of 2011 census, now with the rise in population, it is sure that this number may have increased, right? It can be speculated. Now let's see, so what is the reasons, what is the reasons for this urban housing issues? The first reason is rural distress and migration. This is the foremost reason. Migration in urban areas due to rural distress, right? So, for migration, we know there are various factors. There are certain push factors and there are certain pull factors. Push factors are lack of employment opportunities in villages, social or caste discrimination in villages, right? And what are the pull factors? Pull factors may be increased increased opportunities for social mobility in urban areas, right? Increased employment opportunity, better living conditions, better access to civic amenities in urban places, right? So these are certain pull factors of urban places. So that's why rural population, they migrate to urban places, and this adds on to the population annually who are being added to urban areas. And basically most of these people may belong to lower section of society, right? With low income groups, right? So these people may not afford affordable housing. So this is the first thing. The second thing is suboptimal utilization of urban land. So in urban area, if you see the uh, trend of planning in urban areas, there are certain zones or there are certain sections in urban areas, certain areas, right, which are congested, or which have a huge population density. But there are certain patches of land also here and there which are not fully utilized, right? This may be There may be certain reasons for it. The first thing is, so these reasons are due to the lack of planning, the lack of proper planning of cities. This is the first reason. And for the presence of such suboptimal utilization of land, these areas may be under the presence of, say, some PSUs, say railways, right? Say say banks, or say some PSUs, or say the land would be with some urban local bodies, and this land remains idle. This land is not utilized, right? And so there is an issue regarding planning in the urban cities, right? And this is the reason why affordable land is not available. Okay. The third thing is there are restrictions on floor spaces. So in certain areas we have seen that there are restrictions in the number of floors in a building can be risen to. Okay, there are restrictions in the number. There are certain restrictions in the number of stories can be made in any building, or there can be restrictions in increasing the area, the floor space of any buildings, right? So such kind of restrictions uh, may also hamper the expansion, or the expansion, say vertically, the vertical expansion of the buildings, right? So these can be some kind of issues. The fourth issue is rent control regime in the country. Now, basically, if we see in urban areas, there may be some landowners who may hesitate to give out their rental properties to tenants. Now, this is why. Why is this? Because if we talk about Rent Control Act in India, it was enacted in the year 1948. So most of the laws may not be that accommodative considering the present day scenario. Okay, and one thing in this act is that presently the there are many laws, there are certain laws which can give more protection to the tenants, right? And so because of lack of awareness also, there may be some landowners who may not prefer giving their idle flats or idle property in rent, right? So this may be one of the reason for issues in urban housing. Other thing could be inadequate housing finance, right? Now see, as we discussed in the first point, majority of people who come to urban areas are from villages or maybe from lower income group. Now these lower income group do not have credit worthiness, right? That is, they cannot banks do not prefer to give loans to them. There may be difficulty for these people to access loans from formal institutions, right? So that's why either the loans can be expensive, right? And so there is a rise in construction material and basically other issues. So that's why this is a major challenge in construction of their own home. And other issue in society, if you see, there is a term called gentrification. Now what is gentrification? This is a term when there is a movement of higher income people to a lower income society. Say the people who have higher income, they are moving to a society where the cost of living is low, right? And there may be certain factors for it. Maybe the society is developing, and there may be access to some aesthetic place. Say there is some natural aesthetic place at that place, nearby that locality, or maybe or they want to save their uh, save their cost of living, right? These rich people, they may want to save their cost of living. So in that condition, they may move to a place which has lower cost of living, right? Now in that case, what would happen? The people who are already living there, their rental their rent could increase, right? So in that case also, they may have to displace, their rent may increase. So these are the issues due to gentrification, right? And other thing is that for the construction of say housing properties, uh, may require land, right? Now also, because there is poor digitalization of land records, there may be issue in getting the land ownership, right? In acquiring ownership of the land for construction of any greenfield project. Now, because of these factors, there are certain challenges. And what are these challenges? As we already saw, these challenges are shortage of housing or shortage of affordable housing solutions for these people, right? And this may result in expansion of slums, right? Also, as these people, because of this high population density, they exert pressure on the limited urban resources. What could be these limited urban resources? These could be the civic amenities present in the neighborhood, right? And this may also lead to some environmental problems. What are these environmental problems? This may lead to, say, encroachment of land, right? That is expansion of slums and resulting encroachment of land, encroachment of wetlands, right? This may lead to encroachment and resulting urban flooding, blockage of drains, right? Urban flooding. This may also lead to other issues like rampant construction here and there. So this may lead to urban heat, the issue of urban heat island, right? So these are some of the environmental concerns which may be associated why because of this issue. And now what are the social issues? The quality of life of the people who are living in such conditions may be lower, and the risk of spread of diseases can be there because of the lack of sanitation facilities, because of the lack of clean water, right? So these may some of the issues that their health may impact also, because they may be unemployed, so it may affect their education prospects also, okay? So these are some of the challenges of urban housing basically. So let's understand the government, let's see an important scheme in order to mitigate this issue. Government launched Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Urban in the year 2015. So this was a scheme which had the motto housing for all. So in that sense, it aimed to provide affordable housing to people of economically weaker sections, lower income groups, and middle income groups, right? So, in order to provide them affordable housing, under this scheme, they would be given affordable loans, right? As we saw earlier, that these people may suffer from inadequate housing finance. So, to address it, they are provided affordable loans. Also, they are provided a subsidy on interest. This means that there is certain kind of rebate on the interest payment of the loans which is given to these people, and this rebate or this subsidy on interest is directly transmitted to the bank account of these people, right? And uh, apart from constructing affordable houses, now this also provides affordable renting renting houses also. And one important fact about this scheme is that this scheme is inclusive. It caters to these income groups, right? Lower income groups basically. And this scheme gives priority to women, right? Now these are some of the important points which you should know about Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Urban. So what should be the way forward in this regard to deal with this topic? The first thing is there should be the development of rural areas. If we say development of rural areas, we say that the infrastructure of rural areas should be developed. There should be enough employment opportunity or self-employment opportunity in the rural area, such that in order to prevent migration or to promote reverse migration, right? The first thing is development of rural areas. The second thing is there should be proper urban planning and development, right? So that is, say any housing complex is going to be made, so there should be a single window clearance to approve of the maps, or to approve of other plans regarding that housing accommodation, right? So government launched a scheme to develop smart cities in the year 2015. This scheme was also launched, and this scheme aims to develop 100 smart cities in the country. So what are the important aspect of this scheme? Government wants to create better civic infrastructure in the country, better transportation facilities, that is infrastructure development, affordable housing, right? So these are creation of civic infrastructure, sanitation facilities, transportation, and affordable housing. These are all the components of smart cities. That is, it focuses more on urban planning and development, right? And other thing is government should promote more public private partnership models in developing cities, right? Basically, one such example could be in Mumbai. The Mumbai government has done one thing, that if we talk about government contribution, government is providing subsidized land to the builders. Government is providing tax rebate or tax concession to the builders, which are private builders, right? For construction of new project, that is greenfield project, for in the locality, that is greenfield, say housing complexes, community, or say mass housing. So these private investors or builders are building mass private housing accommodations, right? And for that, government is providing it subsidized land, and government is also providing them tax rebate, right? So these can be some kind of PPP models which can be thought of. Other thing is rent control laws. So there should be, the rent control laws in the country should be balanced. That is, there should be balance of powers to both the landowners as well as tenants, right? In order that more landowners come forward and rent their properties, right? Finally, there should be innovative building practices. Now, as we know that the cost of construction material is rising, right? So for that, there should be innovative building practices like using local building materials, right? Which are sourced from local sources, right? And more technology can be used, like for example using 3D technology, right? Also, government can employ the urban poor, right, or the people, local populations nearby, right, in order to promote in order to give them employment and promote sustainable or innovative building practices or affordable buildings, right? These are some of the things which government can do. Now let's move on to our final article for the day. This appeared on the page number 11 of Indian Express. Now this article says that saving Punjab from paddy. So this article is regarding the issues which basically Punjab is facing owing to its vast area of cultivation of paddy, right? Now we have taken this article in a wider sense, so that we have covered the challenges of green revolution states, basically the northern belt, which majorly comprises of Punjab, states like Punjab, Haryana, Western UP, parts of Madhya Pradesh, and some northern belt, right? These were the states which majorly benefited from green revolution. Now this article is important for economy, right? Just paper 3. Now see, green revolution in the year, since it started in the year 1960s, right? So prior to it, India was dependent on imports for food grains, right? Now since because of green revolution, technological advancement, high yielding varieties of seeds, right? In the year 1960s, 1970s, after it, India became self sufficient in in food grains, right? And owing to these states like Punjab, Haryana, these and Western UP, these were major contributors to ensure food security in the country. And this was majorly, and for this, extensive focus was given to rice, cultivation of rice and wheat through the high yielding varieties of rice and wheat, right? So these were some of the issues why these states became surplus in the production of food crops. Now, this has become a challenge. Now, this has become, in turn, become a challenge for these farmers. Let's see how. First of all, let's see what were the factors which contributed to the rice wheat cycle, because majorly rice and wheat is produced in these states which we are talking, right? Green belt, green revolution states. Now, if I say these states, consider the state like Punjab, Haryana, West UP, among others, right? These states basically. So, the first thing is, the first factor was the increased availability of irrigation facilities. Now, if we talk about Punjab and Haryana, right? Punjab is rich in rivers, the land of five rivers. Punjab means land of five rivers. So, there is enormous availability of water through rivers, also through the irrigation, development of irrigation systems through the development of canals. Yeah, canals and tube wells, right? Now, as in our data said that around 90% of the geographical area of the agricultural area of Punjab and Haryana is under irrigation, right? So it is vast as compared to other states of the country, right? So this was one better advantage with these states had, right? Other thing, subsidy support. Now, as you know, government gives subsidy to these states. Basically, Punjab government gives it electricity subsidy, right? And this electricity subsidy has been used by these states to pump out water through irrigation, for irrigation, right? Using tube wells. And though this is one of the reason for depletion of water level, right? So, and this subsidy was also given in terms of fertilizer subsidy, right, to these states. Other thing is MSP support, minimum support price scheme. Now we know that under the minimum support price scheme, around 22 to 23 crops are placed under this minimum support price scheme by the government. But if we see the procurement, if you see the extent of procurement, it is biased in the favor of certain crops like wheat and rice. And since these states are the major producers of wheat and rice, it favored them a lot, right? And it incentivized them to cultivate wheat and rice because they were getting MSP for it. This is also one of the reasons why farmers in Punjab, their income is 2 to 2.5 times higher than other farmers of the country, right? For major time it had been trend. The one reason was MSP, also procurement of wheat and rice through MSP. The other thing is the technological advancement which occurred during the time of Green Revolution, majority of which was regarding the development of high yielding varieties of seeds of rice and wheat, right? So this contributed to the production, rise in production of food grains. Other thing is market condition and consumption pattern. Now we see market conditions. Okay, it can be regarding export also. We will take one example. Say the basmati rice in Punjab. Punjab exports a huge quantity of basmati rice, right? So there were affordable, so there were appropriate market conditions which enabled the cultivation of these crops, right? Also, if we talk about public distribution system, so under public distribution system, government procured these crops, right? Wheat and rice. So this also favored for major time wheat and rice were procured under PDS public distribution system. So these also promoted their cultivation. Other thing is consumption pattern. So earlier people used to consume millets, but as we know that these cereal crops, rice and wheat, they are easy to cook. They can be cooked in relatively lesser time, and there are more value added products in the market which are made from wheat and rice, right? So that's why these consumption pattern, these all were the factors which were favorable for contributing to the rice wheat cycle in the green revolution states, right? Now, but they had some consequences. Now let's see what were the consequences. The first consequence was environmental degradation, right? Now we've seen that planting monocropping, right, intensive cultivation of rice and wheat in these soil, right, in the land, this contributed an enormous pumping of water. This contributed to the lowering of water table in these states, right? So it has become an environmental hazard in these states, lowering of water table, right? Also, the use of soil, use of inputs, indiscriminate use of inputs, say pesticides, say fertilizers in the soil, and intensive monocropping, that is cropping of just these two crops, right? And crop diversification was not in place, and because of which the quality of soil has degraded now. Other thing is, let's see the economic impact. As we talked earlier, during 1970s and so on, since some for few years, for few decades, we can say, the income of farmer increased by the production of paddy rice, but after a time this income has stagnated. Now what are the reasons for it? One thing is, as you know, that productivity increased. This led to surplus surplus of food grains in the market, right? And now, as we all know, that agricultural produce is subjected to market volatility, right? So if there is a surplus in the market, it may fetch you less income, right? So it may fetch you less income because price of that commodity may decrease, right? So in that sense, as they were planting just rice and paddy, they became perpetually dependent on government for support in the form of minimum support prices, right? So these farmers became dependent on government on minimum support prices. And one more thing was that since rice and wheat, these are less vulnerable to disease attack as compared to other crops. So this was one of the factors why rice and wheat was grown. But for economic impact, we say that the income of these farmers have stagnated now, and now they are dependent on minimum support prices. Other thing is, if we see the social impact of this, the nutrition, even in the states with agricultural surplus, like Punjab and Haryana, there is the issue of nutritional poverty, right? So we call it hidden hunger. This means that the nutrition level in the population is not adequate, right? This is because of not uh, including diverse food grains or diverse fruits. Say this is due to non-inclusion of fruits and vegetables or diverse crops in their diet, right? So let's see what could be a way forward in this regard. The way forward, first thing could be that expanding green revolution to eastern Indian states, eastern India. Now, if we talk about East India, these states are also rich in water resources, right? Basically, due to the Ganges irrigation, the Ganges river system, right? River Ganga and its tributaries. Other thing is, one more important factor is rainfall. The states on eastern India, they are benefited by ample but sufficient rainfall, right? So this green revolution and should be expanded to these eastern Indian states. The second thing is crop diversification. The farmers, and the similar thing is MSP limit. So this MSP, the minimum support price limit, there should be a certain limit of procurement of food crops, that is limit to few quintals to and there should be a subsidy limit also. There should be an MSP limit to minimum support prices subjected to few quintals of procurement, and there should be some subsidy limit also. That is the subsidy which is given on agriculture, fertilizer and pesticides, right, to small and marginal farmers. And farmers with large land holding should be given subsidies to a small limit, right? And these all mechanism like limit to MSP, subsidy limit, and crop diversification, they may cause, they may ensure there is a diversification of crop with ample focus to horticultural crops, say fruit, vegetables, flowers, right? And also to pulses, right? So this will ensure the nutrition of the nutritional content of the soil remains intact, right? And this will also diversify the income sources of the farmers, right? They will give them higher prices. Other thing is, and this can be done by promoting high yielding varieties of seeds of pulses. Like there are high yielding varieties of seeds of rice and wheat. More research should be done to promote high yielding seed varieties of pulses, right? And other thing is development of infrastructure. So there should be enough food processing industries developed in the state, and there should be enough cold storage and warehouse infrastructure for storing horticultural products, which have a lower shelf life as compared to these food grains, right? So these are some of the initiatives which can be taken in order to lessen the burden of these green revolution states, right?